right, again, I just want to make sure everybody has heard this. The assignment that you are doing is this house applet. All right, that's not the one we're going to go over, but it's this one. Write an applet that draws the house, something similar to what you see right here. When the user clicks on the doors or windows, they should close, and if you click on them again, they should open. Does it make sense to everybody what you're supposed to be doing? Okay. The one that we'll go over right now is number 4. And that's the one I just gave you a hard copy of. Write an applet that displays a thermometer. The user should be able to control the temperature with a slider component. When the user moves the slider, the thermometer should show the corresponding temperature. So let's take a look at that one. So we don't need this one anymore. The one we're looking at then is this one right here. And as you can see, when you move, it goes up. All right. Just happen to pick 250. It could have been something else if we wanted to. You know, if we only wanted it to be up to 100, let's say. If it's 250, I am in fear for all of us. So what you'll notice with this then, here's the thermometer.java. Let me close this. And here's the thermal panel. Could have been made all as one program, but put the panel in it. So this thing that you see here is the panel for it. All right, so there's a bunch of constants there. Hopefully when you look at most of them, it makes sense as far as what they are. All right. And when you, just so you know, when you make your house, I don't care if you make it bigger than the one that's shown there, smaller, it really and truly doesn't matter. All right, whatever way you want to do it, it'll be fine. I forgot to look at that when I went upstairs. We're gonna be done before 2:30. So I want to run upstairs again, and I want to grab those applets that I told you about, and I'll see if I can find those and the house that Ken Walter created years ago. So set the background to white. All right. Again, notice we've got our dimensions here for the panel. That's the reason for setting the width and the height here. All right. And that's our area that we're drawing in. So it's 300 by 310. Okay. This pretty just simply enough that basically says if for some reason you try to go beyond that 250, you really shouldn't be able to anyway. Just that's the max, and zeroes them in. That's all. All right. So notice for setting it, we also call repaint. Talked about that before. All right. The paint component, as it says right here, it draws the panel. I don't care if you have a panel or not. You really don't need one if you don't want to have one. That's, you know, that's just extra work. If you want to do it, that's more than fine. So when it says here, draw the temperature blocks, all right, when it says to do that, that's the grid that goes along the side, all right, and the outline of the thermometer is just that. The key thing to look at when you look in here, just a couple things, is notice again the use of constants, all right, and the fact that it took a little bit of time to figure out the size to make some of this stuff. That's probably going to take you a little bit of time when you do the one for the house. That's why I said I just didn't want you to have random lines all over the place. All right. So that's drawing the thermometer, and again, as it says, that's what it does. Okay, so it's drawing, first it draws the panel on the side, then it draws the thermometer itself. All right, we've got the actual temperatures then filled in. The get temp y, as it says, it returns the upper y coordinate of the red filled in portion, so it's making sure that as it moves up, everything that's in the thermometer region there gets filled in. This is actually a harder program than the one you have to do. All right. And as far as the actual thermometer itself, so the thermometer class, all right, again, extends Applet. Import, and the only thing that we're importing in here is swing, and I guess we need an event for swing events, and the AWT. All right, so there's that panel that we created in the other program that you just saw. There's a slider panel to hold the slider, and there's the slider. That slider is the thing on the bottom that went from 0 to 250. Again, here's the init method. As I said, with an init method, it takes the place of a constructor. So notice what we're doing. We're building one panel, we're building another panel, we're adding the panel to the spot that we want it added on into our border layout. We're adding the slider to the other area in the border layout. So the center is going to take up most everything. All we have in here is the center, which has got the space for the thermometer, and the south, which has got the space for the actual slider in there. All right. Since the center is greedy, it takes up the east, it takes up the west, and it takes up the north. All right. So we build the panel, and again, it's just a matter of setting the things up, setting, as it says, the ticks, etc. You don't have to do any of this. So again, one last time, think about this, really and truly. Think about what it is. I don't want that anymore. Think about what it is in here that you have to do. Of course, I closed it, but whatever. Because what I'm going to show you right now, I already mentioned it, but I'm going to show it again, and I want you to understand that the way I'm showing it to you is, first of all, yeah, it's the way I'm requiring you to do it, but it's probably the easiest way of doing it. All right? So again, for this one, the first thing, again, if this is me building this example, the first thing I'm going to do is just figure out the size of the rectangle I want right there. And I'm going to draw that on the screen. Okay, that's it to start with. So when I've got that done, then I have to think about, okay, what's left? Well, there's going to be a line here, and there's going to be a line there. So that's just going to be a couple of basically drawing lines. The first drawing example we went over drew that X. That's almost what this is, except that instead of the X, making an X, we're just drawing half an X for each one. Does that make sense? So once you do that, once you draw that rectangle and you draw those two lines, the only thing you've got is the inside. All right? Well, then what you want to do is you want to figure out what is the size of the rectangle that this is supposed to be in here. And I draw that. And then I would just mimic it, use the same size, and draw it over here. So now I've got the house drawn, and I've got the two windows drawn. Then I have to figure out what's the midpoint of this, and I want to draw a line from the midpoint top to the midpoint bottom on the y-axis, and from the midpoint left to the midpoint right on the x-axis. Okay? So once I do that, then I just basically copy the same stuff over here. Now that whole thing is done, draw one more rectangle right there, and then put an oval in here. All right, that's a filled oval. That's the only one that's got to be filled in here. Okay? Then, when you click on here, how do you want this to react? Well, you want to replace what's in here with a filled rectangle of the same size. And then when you click it again, you want it to go back to the original. So it's toggling back and forth. When you call repaint, if you put the stuff in here to do this, that's what it's going to do. Yeah. And like I said, I'm not saying it's a particularly short program or long. It's not a long program, though. I only had, unlike the other one, I didn't have a panel or anything for this. So I just have a host.java file. That's all that I put in there. That's it. All right, so you will have lab all next week, and I don't even remember what we had in the schedule. It may now be 2 weeks of lab, but let's take a quick look. So next week is, see, we were supposed to be doing that stuff next week, but we've already got it done. So this ends up now, this will be lab, because today we went through chapter 14. All right? So maybe today should have been a lab. But you see now you've got 2 weeks of lab. Hopefully that will catch people up who are behind. So it's lab next week in here all week. It's going to be lab in here next week for the 161 class, also the ASP.NET class. So it'll be lab straight through from 10 until 3. In just a couple minutes, or at 3 o'clock, I'm going to lecture, and we'll see if we can get done with Chapter 8 today. Hopefully we do. And then Chapter 9 we'll do on Monday of next week, or Tuesday of next week. And if that's the case, then come Thursday, it'll be lab for every class. All right, so I mean, if Mark and those of you who are just in some of the classes, if you want to come in, drop out whenever you want, you're welcome to be in here. All right. Questions? You all understand what you're supposed to be doing? All right, so again, at 3 o'clock, I'm going to be going over Chapter 8 in the PHP book. All right. That's all I got.